Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this video, I'm going to break down my 3 favorite bait designs in the soft plastic category for springtime fishing. So for us, here in Tennessee, we're talking mid-March right now. It is beautiful, mid-70s right now. So mid-March all the way through the first couple weeks of May is generally when we've got fish in all 3 phases of the spawn: pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn. Obviously, the spawn being kind of the primary phase that people think of when they're fishing during the spring. Now, that time period is going to change based on the location that you're fishing in, what region you're fishing in. Up north, it's maybe May and early June. All the way down in Florida, it could all be January, so this really does change. But these are 3 different bait designs that you really need to be throwing this time of year, at least have in the boat or in your tackle box ready to go. So I'm going to show you the 3 different bait designs that I really like this time of year, and also some of the different rigging options that I like to use for this time period. The first bait is probably going to be one of the most effective baits overall during the springtime. It is absolute killer. It's one of those presentations that you can just count on year in and year out. And it's a producer even when the bite is tough. There's one of these is definitely one that if this bite is on, you want to have it tied on, but the bite might not even exist. Okay, but this bait right here, a good old stick bait. This is the Z-Man Zinkers. This is going to be one of those baits that you have to have in the boat because it is going to be your primary producer all throughout the spring. Stick bait is essentially just a straight tail worm. It's kind of a wide body design. Baits like the Senko made this category popular. And then, companies like Z-Man kind of, improved upon that especially with this Elastec material. Now, this is loaded with salt. Most good stick baits are going to be absolutely cram-packed with salt, which gives them weight and allows them to have a nice shimmy on the fall. They'll kind of shake like this on the fall. And depending on how you're rigging it, of course. Now, the way that I'm going to be rigging a stick bait like the Zinkers is really in 3 different ways. I might take a Texas rig, so like an EWG style hook like this. This is the Hayabusa 959 or 957. And I lost my weight. You can actually do it weighted or weightless. And you're just going to Texas rig this, okay? This is a good classic way to rig a stick bait, just like that, okay? So if you're fishing real, pretty heavy cover, snaggy cover, a Texas rig is going to be a great way to present this bait. And again, you can do it weedless. So if, you're fishing around lake laydowns and bushes and things like that, you may want to fish it Texas rig, but still fish it weightless. But you could also use a weight like this. This right here is a 1/16 ounce weight. You can use an 1/8 ounce. Really, I would recommend using all the way up to like a 3/16 ounce with a stick bait. But yeah, you can weight it. And what I recommend is you actually use like a rubber T-peg and peg that weight to the line. Because one of the great things about a stick bait like this is that when you peg it, peg that weight, it has a nice glide to it, which another rigging technique I'm going to show you has become actually my favorite compared to a traditional Texas rig, for giving it that really nice glide. A gliding action on the fall is one of the best ways to entice a strike from a fish in a lot of situations. So weightless or with a small weight up to like a 3/16 ounce, that is a great way to present a stick bait. Just a good all-around traditional technique for rigging. Another way which I think is my absolute favorite way if you're fishing sparse cover or fishing for spawning fish in particular. Because spawning fish, you're generally not fishing in dense cover, thick cover, right? You're fishing kind of around the cover. So you're casting to the outside of stumps or the outside of a laid down or a dock posts or something like that where the fish are spawning around. And so you don't really need a super weedless technique, but you need a rigging technique that is going to allow this bait to stay in the strike zone and kind of shimmy on the fall weightlessly. And that is why the wacky rig is probably the best way during the spring to rig your stick bait. Okay, a wacky rig is just classic. It's a great spawning fish presentation. You can skip it really easily, and fish just absolutely can't resist it. It is just a really good way to catch fish during the spawn, more specifically, but also pre-spawn and post-spawn, because especially if you're fishing around docks, the fish are going to set up towards the ends of the docks in both of those time periods, especially pre-spawn, and then there's also going to be some fry garters towards the ends of the docks during the post-spawn. So both of those phases too, you can catch them with a wacky rig very well. All right, so great shallow technique. I would say if you're fishing 5 foot or less, a wacky rig is about as good as it gets, as long as you're fishing relatively moderate cover and just kind of sight casting outside of cover, not like directly in it. However, if you do end up going in to thicker cover, or you're just finding that you're snagging, maybe your accuracy is off on that day or whatever, you can use a weedless wacky rig hook. The one that is just the exposed hook that I like is this one right here. This is the Hayabusa 201, WRM 201. Fantastic all-around wacky rig hook. I love this thing, okay? Really good one. I usually use 1/0 or 2/0, but again, exposed hook, that's an issue around cover. So if you really want to get into that heavier cover, you know, again, you can use something that has a weed guard. And this one right here is the WRM 201 FG. Okay, it has that fluorocarbon weed guard on there. I prefer a fluorocarbon weed guard over wire. And the reason for that is I feel like I miss a lot of fish with the wire style weed guards. And I think what happens is, quite literally, it stabs the fish's mouth. When they close down on it, that metal wire, that stainless steel wire, I think actually pokes them. And I don't think that they chomp down on it as quickly. And so the fluorocarbon, I feel like not only is it a little bit more invisible, but more importantly, I feel like they'll chomp down on it more, and I get more fish, more of those fish in the boat. But that may just be a theory of mine that's not true, but that I honestly feel that way. If I was a fish and you chomp down on one of those pokey stainless steel wire weed guards, I probably wouldn't want to chew on it too much more. So anyways, there's a variety of different hooks that you can use. And if you want to get a little bit deeper, you also have the new Core Tackle weighted wacky rig weedless setup here. Let's see. It's called the Wacky Shot. We'll just call it what it is. But you can see here, they come in a variety of different weights. Okay, right there. And it has the weed guard on it. Now this is a wire weed guard, but honestly, it's not like one of those single wire. It's a braided style, so it really doesn't poke as much as like just a single wire does. So this one actually, I feel pretty confident in this one as far as hooking percentage. But this one also has a screw lock, so you can actually screw lock that bait onto it. Now, Elastec is going to be harder to screw lock, admittedly, but honestly, once you start using something like the Zinkers, it's so porous because it's so full of salt that the Elastec actually already has so much like little holes and stuff in it that it actually will screw a whole lot better than you'd think. but I may consider a traditional style of you know, plastic material for the wacky shot. But as you can see, it does work. You know, we screwed that in there, all right? So it does work with ElaZtech. A lot of you are gonna be like, face value, you know, ElaZtech doesn't work good with a screw lock, but the Zinkers is different because it's more salt than it is ElaZtech, it seems like sometimes. So lots of different options out on the market. One thing I forgot to mention before we started this video is that all of the products that I'm talking about in this video are going to be in the description below. So I got all the links. That is a great way to support this channel, is to use those links if you're going to buy the products anyways. So I appreciate you guys in advance for using those. And also another way to support the channel is to like and share this content as well as subscribe. So thank you guys for doing all of those. But let's get back. Let's go back to the second soft plastic bait design that I like to throw this time of year. And that has got to be one of these suckers right here. Now this is more of a you know, general category. You know, I would call it like that creature bait category. Maybe like a brush hog is one of the oldest and most popular designs out there. But essentially a creature bait that has some of those curl tails to it. It looks like it could imitate a wide range of forage species. And my particular favorite is the Z-Man Gremlin. Okay, the Gremlin here, I didn't take this one apart here, but you can see it has these curl tails that if you just break that little piece of ElaZtech there, it has a nice curl tail that has this nice flowy natural action to it. And it looks like a crawfish. It looks like some type of amphibian. There's all kinds of different things that this looks like. And the ways that I rig this is I'll do the Texas rig with some type of weight. You know, if I'm flipping and pitching, that is a great way to present this. Another way that I like to present it is with a Ozark rig. That was actually one thing I forgot to show you with the stick bait too. So I kind of need to go back because that's kind of a big deal. I forgot about this. The Ozark rig is another killer way to present the stick bait. So we'll just show it with the stick bait and the Gremlin, the creature bait. But the Ozark rig essentially is this dispersed weight, you know, weedless jig head design from Core Tackle. All right, and it creates a crazy, crazy gliding action. Just show you real quick how it's rigged. Similar to a Texas rig. Similar but different. That right there is what it's supposed to look like. So you kind of rig it like a Texas rig, and then you got the eye of the hook that you tie onto right up here. So works great with the stick bait. This is something I'm going to be using kind of more and more in place of the Texas rig because it allows for that nice extreme horizontal glide. So like around bushes, around laydowns, around docks, this is going to be a good option if you feel like you're getting a little bit too snaggy with the wacky rig. But getting back to the creature bait, it's also a really good way to present a creature bait. So same type of scenarios if I'm fishing around maybe even weed beds too, but bushes, laydowns, the Ozark rig is going to be an excellent choice for something like the Gremlin, some type of creature bait like this, okay? And another reason why I like this bait design this time of year is that all of those species forage species that this imitates, amphibians, crawfish, they're all going to be very, very active this time of year. And especially when you're talking about spawning bass, all of those species are cradle robbers. I mean, they go in there and they raid the nest and, you know, try to get all the eggs. So they're a big threat to bass, and bass hate them, so they eat them up. And the Ozark rig does really, really well for those situations. And another thing I like about the Ozark rig over a Texas rig is it really puts that bait in a natural position of defense. So it's a natural defensive position where it's just kind of like slightly tilted up and the claws are standing straight up. And ElaZtech, being as buoyant as it is, keeps those claws pointing up too. So Ozark rig, Texas rig, both of those are going to work really well, but also a Carolina rig, especially if you're in the pre-spawn or post-spawn and the fish are staging to move up into the spawning areas, or they're moving out of spawning areas and getting on like long tapering structure. All of those type of situations are great for a Carolina rig. And this is one of the best bait profiles you can put on the back of a Carolina rig. So those are the situations I like to fish something like the Gremlin. I will say it's also one of my favorite bed fishing baits. So like with the Texas rig, if I'm cycling through a bunch of different baits for a bed fish, the Gremlin is going to be one of those. Okay, usually with a lighter weight, something in the 1/8 ounce to 3/16 ounce range. That's what I'm going to be pitching on top of those beds. All right, so we got a creature bait. The final one is a little bit more situational. This one is not much of a pre-spawn bait, though you can, under certain circumstances, catch them on this during the pre-spawn, but it is more of a post-spawn and spawn bait because it's more of that warm water type of presentation, and that is, of course, a toad. A toad is one of the most fun baits, soft plastic wise, to fish during the springtime, and it is a topwater bait. It allows you to cover a ton of water. It has those kicking feet on there. This right here is the Z-Man Goat Toad. Okay, this is a really good bait, super buoyant, super durable, has a ton of action, and I'm essentially just gonna be covering a ton of water. If I think that they're going to come up on the surface to eat a bait like this, which they normally do during the spring, I'm going to be either Texas rigging it. So with the 959, heavy duty extra wide gap hook, that's going to be a really good one. And then, usually I'll peg like a small weight, like a 1/16 ounce weight. In fact, I've got the 1/15 or 1/16 on there already. So we'll do this. We'll just go ahead and rig it on this thing. So I'm a big fan of just a general Texas rig. I learned how to fish a toad in Florida, where it really became popular. And for me, I think that it is way more efficient in super heavy vegetation. So if you're fishing heavy vegetation, I highly suggest using a Texas rig style of rigging and just peg a small little weight, maybe up to an 1/8 ounce, but generally like a 1/16 ounce. It just gives you a little bit extra weight on the cast, and overall, I think it just runs a whole lot better. Another option is like a belly weighted swim bait hook. Those are also really good, especially if you're fishing open water. Open water type scenarios, definitely going to work very well with the toad, but I don't like the belly weighted hooks as much in heavy vegetation. That's probably just because I'm used to a just straight Texas rig for thick vegetation. There's a lot of people out there that throw a belly weighted hook all the time with a toad. But any of those rigging techniques are going to work really well. But a toad is one of the best ways to fish on especially grass lakes. Covering water and finding the right stretches or areas is really easy with that style of bait. So anyways, guys, those are my favorite soft plastic baits. I know I kind of rambled on this one, but I just wanted to be very thorough with breaking those down and the ways that I like to rig them and the scenarios I like to fish them in. If you guys have any questions about these baits, definitely drop a comment below. Other than that, make sure you check out the links in the description below, and I'm going to see you out in the water. Make sure you trust the process.